Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence. How are you? Big mahalo for tuning in. Today we are calling halfway around the world to the UK to speak with a British music legend. He is coming back to Hawaii in September. 3 big shows on Oahu, Maui, and the Big Island. And it's a return for this group. Very famous name of a band, too. They played the state just once before. Possibly you were there. It was September 1966. And a lineup that I think had both Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page at that moment. We'll hear about it in a second. It was right here in Honolulu. They were all on the same stage. You'll be seeing them with their current lineup. They'll be playing their huge 60s hits that made them famous. Stuff like Over, Under, Sideways, Down, The Shapes of Things, Heart Full of Soul, Train Kept A-Rollin', of course, For Your Love, to name just a few highlights. It's a great pleasure to welcome from the Yardbirds, rhythm guitarist, then bassist, and guitarist again, Chris Dreja. Aloha and mahalo, Brother Chris. Thanks for taking a moment.
Well, hello. Yeah, this is will be an amazing trip. As you so rightly said, Dave, we came, I think, in 1967, thereabouts, to the Hawaiian island, and I have very strong memories. It was very hot, but it was also very pleasant, and some great audiences, you know. So we look forward to revisiting, and of course bringing our music, and plus some new things as well, and doing the whole thing in a few weeks' time.
What are when you say you have memories? Run through what are you seeing in your head? Take me to some of those memories.
Well, I remember we stayed at the Hawaiian Hilton, which was a very posh place to stay at the time.
Sure.
I remember it was very humid, but I also remember we hired mopeds. Do you know what a moped is?
Sure, we still have a lot of them here.
Yeah, and drove around the entire island. It was the most beautiful getaway from touring experience, and a fantastic look at the island. It was the only way to do it at the time, and it was brilliant.
Wow, what a cool memory. Was that the whole band or just yourself?
I think, probably Jim and I did it, actually, in tandem, funnily enough. Whether we'll do it this time, I'm not sure, but maybe we will.
A little return visit, I like that.
Yeah.
That is funny stuff.
Just a bit of a gap.
Yeah, right. So, speaking of which, I'm assuming you're saying you have not been back to the island since the gigs here in the 60s?
Not at all. No, I certainly haven't. And, we've recently played Japan, where the band never went to either in the 60s. But Hawaii is almost akin to, although we have played once, but to come back again, you know, it's a big deal for us. We're really looking forward to it.
I'm blessed over the years here to have some listeners. I came here from Boston. I've been here for 9 years, but a couple different folks have taken time to sort of plug me in with old rock publications, ads for concerts, reviews, that sort of thing. And I've been looking at some of this information from loyal listener Steve about your gigs, the gig rather, here in Honolulu. Did you really, am I right in saying you had Jimmy and Jeff at that same time?
Well, I certainly think we had Jimmy at that time. We certainly had Jimmy. I can't, to be very honest with you, I cannot confirm that Jeff was with us.
Okay.
Because if I remember rightly, we played Australia, Singapore, Hawaii. It was a run-through of that sort of, well, I guess you would say the South Pacific. Is that correct?
Yeah, sort of. I guess all those other places combined, certainly the Pacific.
Yeah, and certainly we were with Jimmy at that point, because I remember we were touring with the Walker Brothers and also the great American singer. I'll think of his name in a moment. I'm sorry, it's just
it's okay.
Passed through my mind. There was a big tour at the time, and I'm pretty certain we ended up on Hawaii.
And that was the end of it?
It could well have been, because funnily enough, I remember going from Hawaii straight through to New York, hitting New York in the winter, getting on a bus at a New York terminal, and driving out to my then's wife house out in Jersey, and we went from Hawaii, which was like 90 degrees, to like minus 20, and a very heavy blizzard.
That'll be a sequence of events certain to
yeah, I'll say
lock themselves into your memory. Well, very good. So you're uncertain. Well, at least I tackled it. Steve will be happy we looked into whether or not you had them both. His recollection was you did have both guys.
But it's not impossible. It's
right.
not impossible. I must be honest, but I can't. I wouldn't get one of your archivists to confirm that.
Right. Always best to be safe. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Err on the safe side. Run down who's going to be in the band you're bringing out to Hawaii. Some of these cats and characters.
Well, of course, Jim McCarty, my longtime colleague and founding member of the band, also fellow composer of many of the big songs that we were lucky enough to, became international big hits. And at the moment, we have a great, we have quite a young band with us at the moment. We have Ben King, who is, stepped into the, because of course the Yardbirds was always known as a great guitarist band. So that's imperative that we always had that. And he's been with us for I think actually 6 years. And he is the epitome of, a real talent, because that's imperative for us. We have a singer called Addie Mitchell, because of course Keith Relf unfortunately died back in the 70s, who's absolutely brilliant, along with a young bass player called Dave Schmale, who they all grew up with our music and come from the same roots, and they've also brought to both Jim and I a tremendous amount of new energy. Not that we needed a lot, because the music is so highly energized anyway.
Sure. No, but I can imagine these cats. I was looking at them; they did look quite young. But
I mean, it's kind of fun, because I think a lot of musicians are sort of crossovering if they do certain things, they are crossovering into using young musicians and the energy they bring into the music. But also, it's quite interesting, because although the Yardbirds for some years have been attracting not just an elderly or an older generation, but generation as well, these guys, they have their own talents, they're recognized for them, and they have their own following as well, so it's kind of a bit of a win-win, really.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's a good way of describing it too.
It's great to hand the mantle down to the young. It's the way it should be done. It's the way families work.
It's kind of like how the Allman Brothers sort of, they have derrick trucks.
Yeah, that's it. We're all doing it, but we all recognize that it's great.
No, I dig that. I dig your outlook on it. Do you guys, on that note of the tour with these younger musicians, are you doing the same set each night, or sort of describe how these?
Sorry, the Yardbirds have always been. I mean, our music is a bit eclectic, very eclectic, really. Some of the songs are so ridiculously different. It's not true, but we also are known for experimentation and never quite the same thing every night. So. Yes, there will be a basic. We won't disappoint people by, going off on a tangent and playing obscure Yardbirds material.
Right.
Because, the catalogue we have is extraordinary, and I love to play it. That's why I do it, But it will be a little bit different here and there.
Okay. And so the show that's coming to Hawaii, in terms of all these fans, most of which I'm assuming probably have not seen you before, but to sort of describe the integration of the material and how you're going to feature things, because you're going to be doing 3 nights, and I get the feeling that it's going to be something where you do sort of experiment from night to night.
Well, I'm sure we will. I mean, luckily we have a great catalogue to draw on. Plus, since the Birdland album, Jim and I have written new songs which have become staple, even after just a few short years, have become, grown into the Yardbirds overall catalogue. So we will be doing new stuff that maybe people don't have instant access to on the original albums, but will be very much part of some of all the shows, I'm sure.
Right, and so people will get a chance to hear the Birdland. They'll get a chance to hear the classics.
Yeah, the B.B. Kings. Mainly, it's just the energy of the band. It's just extraordinary. I mean, the music really dictates that, and it's pretty much as simple as that.
Live performance of the Yardbirds is key, and
totally key.
And one of the things that really made an impression on me about what you were talking about, and the intensity, the energy that you guys have when you come together, and the sound of the band, that film Blow Up, where you guys do this blistering live performance. How did you guys get that gig, and what are any memories you have from that experience?
Well, I suppose some people would have said that's a Who gig, because they were known for smashing up equipment. The thing about the Yardbirds, we were the genuine deal in as much as, we had emotion on stage, especially with Jeff. If something wasn't going quite right, he would sling a amplifier out the window, or I've seen him smash up a guitar here and there. But it was more genuine than an act, which is what the Yardbirds are. And we were lucky. I think that the director, Antonioni, at the time, that's a love or hate movie, really. I think people either love. I personally think it's the 60s movie, of that period. To be honest, that's my opinion. But some people are not so keen. They think it's a bit weird. But for my money, it really did encapsulate what was going on with the young photographer. The music scene, the complete generational breakthrough, and in our country, because of course, life in America was different. It was much more in color at those days.
Right.
But for us, I think it was a real breakthrough film. So I'm very grateful to be associated with it because, it's a real piece of history.
Oh, it totally is, dude. And that's Train Kept a Rolling in that, right?
Yeah. Well, you can't, Dave, play that music without. You just can't. You don't lean on anything when you play that music. It's just like takes you over. Your legs, your body, your head, your fingers. It's just, it's just the thing. It's just that's what the Yardbirds got off on in the first place, was that 100% energy.
When you stumble upon that thing on cable, when they just are blasting it out on TNT or TBS, wherever, you'll be.
And it's also timeless. You see, that's
right.
The thing. I always think that although we did many different, there was a no rules band. We tried so many different things. We didn't have record companies necessarily breathing down our necks to say you must be commercially successful. That's why often some of the stuff we've done is cult and has taken a few years to be recognized. But the thing is it's important to be true to what you want to do. And the Yardbirds really, I think, because of its longevity now, is because of that. We just didn't take no for an answer, or we blew the rules out and, wanted to play that music.
On that note, not taking no for an answer, blowing the rules out, you had the privilege, honor, or maybe it's best described otherwise, of getting to have Peter Grant as a manager. What was he actually like? What are some stories?
Because I always say to people, not only did we have in that band, not because we had the original guitar player, Topham, but we've always had great guitar players. But we had of course Clapton, and we had Jeff Beck, and we had Jimmy Page joined us. But we also had the most three pivotal managers of all time as well. Giorgio Gromelsky, who was a creative genius. Then we had Simon Napier Bell, who went on to manage Wham and all those sort of that stuff. And then we had Peter Grant, who literally changed the music industry. And I think every musician to this day owes Peter. They may not know of him, but they owe him because he literally changed all the numbers for musicians.
Yeah, the royalty equation. I'm familiar with that.
Oh, yeah, what a great guy. I adored him, and I guess there are people out there who, I've seen Peter defend us, literally, holding off people with guns in his belly. He was a great artist management, but he literally did change the whole, scheme of things.
When did that happen with people with guns in his belly?
Well, back in the 60s. Things were not so civilized. A lot of the venues were run by the mafia, and they loved artists, bless them, but also they needed artists to fill their various clubs and their various activities in Nevada and whatever, And they didn't necessarily play by all the rules, of course, because, that's the way they were. We never had any problem with them. I found them most gracious and good employers. But you had to watch your P's and Q's. And if you were, once we had a Canadian show up in Canada, and there was bad snow, and we were actually 24 hours late. It was a bit late for a gig. And these two guys pulled guns on Peter, and he literally stood up from the back of at that point was a sort of a Greyhound type bus, and he literally said, "You're going to shoot me for $1,000?" And he stomach butted them out of the coach. And when he got to the steps, they all fell about laughing, saying, "Man, you got such balls! What a guy!"
I was just gonna say that.
Same friends.
I was just gonna say that exact phrase. I mean, really, man, that's
Dave, rock and roll takes you to places that nothing else takes you to. Forget the beer slogans.
That's some.
Always a unique experience.
That's a good story right there, Chief. I mean, that's what it's all about. Speaking of that cat, and people who have been along for the ride, as you say, or people who had a seminal influence on the band. You mentioned Eric Clapton. We hadn't really talked about him yet. Where are you in terms of a relationship with him?
Well, when Eric was in the band, I mean, we were very, very close. I suppose we were like brothers. We even shared a bedroom.
Wow.
You could say I slept with him. Our beds were like a foot apart. So there you go.
It's a good one.
People could say that on a sort of purely... don't get me wrong. We shared a bedroom, Dave, nothing else. But he was a wonderful... I mean, he was like an older brother. And at that time, he was in the band. He was totally into the blues, and there's the history of the blues, very authentic. He taught me many things about the blues, and recently he wrote an autobiography and was actually very kind to me in what he said, so it's nice to hear that. And, I miss him to this day. I mean, he for me, he was a very big influence,
Is there a certain... So you learned some stuff from him. Is there a certain lesson or something that throughout your life you've been able to fall back on, and you can kind of credit him for picking it up from him?
Well, the history is quite large with Eric, as is well known today, but he had difficult circumstances as a young man with his family.
That's right.
And he felt like he was an outsider, and he found that the blues, with all these, slightly... characters who were fighting the system, appealed to what was going on for him. So I not only learned about people like Robert Johnson and the originators of the blues, way back, but also, things like 4-bar electric blues intros from Chicago, and I don't know, just the fact that it was a music that needed to be respected.
That's cool. You did pick up stuff, and I can tell from your answer, it's a solid thing. The Birdland album, we supported that. I was at a different station then, doing afternoons here in Honolulu, but we supported the record. You had a lot of stars, Vi, Satch.
It's pretty difficult, actually, to come back after 35 years and sort of produce. I mean, you've got to be careful with the Yardbirds legacy, because it turned... I mean, we thought that after 3 weeks of closing down in the 60s, we'd never be remembered again. But you see, history does weird things. So you have to be careful with the legacy of a band such as the Yardbirds. And luckily, I think we got it reasonably right, on that album, by mixing new material and old material and getting it sonically more up to date, really, I guess.
Yeah, that was a cool... Wasn't that the record you guys had Johnny Resnick on a track, right?
Yeah, would you believe that? Johnny Resnick, yes.
Right.
Yeah, he sang For Your Love.
Yeah.
Great interpretation.
Right, yeah, dude,
he changed the middle of it. He changed the harmonies. And it's great, because he goes up as opposed down, that we did on the original,
He's the man. I love his voice.
Oh, he's got a great voice, yeah, he really... But I tell you what, so has Andy Mitchell got a great voice.
No, he is.
Wonderful for us, to have such a great frontman again.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's but it's like you pointed out. You brought that record out. You addressed those issues that you had to take the legacy really seriously, and putting all those kind of cats on there. Really, it was a great way for you to come back, and you got to also believe, when you were saying you thought 3 weeks afterwards, no one would ever remember you. I bet.
No. But I mean, the thing is that we had to be careful, because what we wanted to do was reintroduce, I guess, not just the people who have been very, very, supported over the years, and there's many of those people, but we wanted to introduce our music to a new audience. So we had to do it that way. We couldn't just do a completely new written album,
And you got newly live music on The Simpsons, too. You obviously got some love there.
Well, I tell you, man, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. I mean, we've had covers from all sorts of people. You wouldn't believe, quite frankly. Since then, the music has been included in Chevrolet ads.
Right.
We even had a sample by the Pussycat Dolls, would you believe, from our music. Now, that's quite something, isn't it?
Well, it shows the stretch. It really shows how...
Well, it's extraordinary. We must have been doing something right.
I think so. Is there, when you think of musicians that you've gotten to work with, and we've named some, as we close this thing up, when you think of the people that are out there, or is there anyone you'd still really like to maybe bring in to do a Yardbirds record, or just to work with, that you've always admired?
Oh, that's a good question. I tell you, some of the people I've shared space with, Janis Joplin, some of the great Stax people, all the Dylan, all those people. I don't know, someone to do... Well, I think the thing is, when we did the Birdland album, when we decided to ask people whether they'd like to join us, there was a list of, like running around your island, really. And we couldn't include everybody. You had to stop somewhere, But let me think now, who would I like to join us on a... Oh, my God, that's...
Just maybe someone you've admired or you like their playing.
Yeah, well, quite frankly, I'd like to put what turned us on, and me specifically, from where I live, which has been nicknamed the Surrey Delta, was the blues music. I'd love to bring back, Jimmy Reed or somebody like that to work with us again. One of the genuine blues people who gave us the chance to get across there and our music to the world, really. So I would kind of bag, maybe they're not around anymore, but it'd be great to have someone from that area, from the original music that we took on, and help was so great for us.
A full circle thing. I dig it.
A full circle thing, yeah.
Well, I look forward to catching up with you, dude, when you come to town, and I'll reach out to your people, and we'll make something happen. And I really hope that you've enjoyed this. You're a special guy. You got a great legacy, and I appreciate you taking time for me today, Chris.
Mr. Dave Lawrence, I want to thank you for ringing me from Honolulu. I cannot wait to step on your island.
It's going to be huge, brother. I'll give you a high five and a hug. I'll deal with your folks. We'll make something happen when you get here.
We look forward to seeing you, Dave. Well done, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Be safe, brother. I'll see you soon.
Okay, ciao.
Aloha.